In terms of growth areas, we know that horizontals are sort of big, but you'll start seeing niche verticals in segments like health and beauty and jewelry and whatnot. But probably an under-discussed story is actually the move of offline brands to online. And I think that's going to be a big trend you'll start seeing in e-commerce in a year or two from now. Now, we don't do a lot of talk about India Time shopping because it's a portion of a big business of ours, and frankly, it's been around for a long time. And I think there are a lot of conceptions about what it is, so I thought maybe I'd just highlight a few different points about what we do. India Time shopping has not had a giant capital infusion and spent a ton of money on marketing recently. But despite that, in the last year, we've grown 3 times, and as of the last Comscore, we're the 3rd biggest e-commerce site in terms of traffic. We've moved away from a marketplace model where we had thousands of products but really had no ownership over the experience, towards saying we will look at these 3 elements and build a technology platform, which has been a really core part of our strategy for a while, build a core technology platform that understands these 3 parts and is able to interface with them. And we think it'll be a big differentiator for us going forward. We've grown from having 0 warehouses to now having 2 and eventually having 8 by the end of the year. And again, to that point of offline brands coming online, it's actually a big part of our strategy. If you look at what are the big e-commerce players in, say, the US, you'll obviously say Amazon. But soon after that, you'll start seeing brands like Nordstrom or J.Crew or Macy's. And it raises a real point in that the brands people know are the brands that they've seen for a long time. And so we think a big move in what will come to e-commerce, because these guys are not the most technology-forward guys, but they'll get there, is that these offline brands are going to need help coming online, and they're going to attract a lot of consumer attention. And so a big part of our strategy has been around that. About a month ago, we announced the partnership with Nokia, where we're going to be their official online e-commerce partner. And there's a little more data about that coming soon, but that's a big part of our strategy. So what's the future of e-commerce? And I think this is where it really matters for advertisers, especially because it's really in its infancy in India. We think there's 3 major things that are going to happen. First is going to be this element of offline discovery. Right? Today, and I think that's going to be driven a lot by the mobile phone. What the mobile phone will allow, and we've seen it in much more developed markets, is this ability to interface with my offline experiences like traditional shopping or browsing and make that a seamless transition towards purchasing online. Second, you're going to see new ways of discovering commerce online. Just like we talked about content or entertainment, you're going to see it in commerce as well. And I think you're starting to see this just start in the US, but you're seeing models where it's less about having every product, but really about curating a set of products and offering those to the market. So there'll be things where celebrities are curating products and saying, these are the things we love. There'll be times when an expert is finding things from around the world that are not easy to discover domestically. Or it may even be what your friends are offering on platforms like Pinterest, which make it easy to see what your friends love and use that as a guide for what you might like. And then third, and I say it with a little bit of caution, is you'll start seeing this move to integrate in very selective ways content and commerce. Right? Now, there's obviously concerns about what that can mean, but think about some of the most amazing situations around it. I mean, I think some of the Nestle ads that we just saw in the presentation before this really highlight that. It's engaging, it's fun, it's not an ad. It happens to be one in the end, but it's really about integrating that experience. Another example that I really liked was Burberry had a live fashion show live streamed online about a year ago. Now, that generally is something people like to watch. But what they did was they extended that experience. So first, we really focus on trying to be faster. Faster for us means as soon as something happens, we tweet it, we post it on Facebook, we quickly put a quick headline on our website. 5 minutes later, we're making sure we've got articles across all of our devices. A few minutes after that, we're studying trends of what people are looking for and trying to curate our content to make it easier to find. A few minutes after that, we start putting multiple articles up and really create context around any story where we've got topic pages that help you see everything around it. And hopefully within 25 or 30 minutes, we've got a very distributed strategy where any given story is across platforms, easy to access on our sites, but also on social and search. Second, we really like to think that we're smarter. And I know this is an egoistic thing to say, but most media companies don't value how much data can impact their decision-making. And for us, it's a big driver. So this is a snapshot of one of our internal tools called iBeat. And what iBeat is it's a real-time metric of what's happening across our sites. And so we've opened it up for our digital team, but even our print team uses it a lot now because they're able to see what was consumed in the business section yesterday. Right? We can see at this point the top 3 stories across the site are in the cricket domain, where people are commenting and sharing, and we can actually see the trends. And our digital editors use this information in thinking about what we present to our consumers. We use heat maps to teach us about how we should design our pages. So a heat map for us is we have studies where we track people's eye movements and see where they look across the page. But it gives us a great perspective in understanding how we should think about placing things. And we do a lot of A/B testing that most people don't even know about. And I know a lot of tech companies do it, but as a media company, we think of it as something that's a little bit competitive as an advantage. So this is a story, and this is another layout, and this is another layout. But for you, you'll probably only see one of them. But we use all 3, and we do them concurrently, and we measure the data around it. So we see which one had better click-through rates, which one had better ad click-through rates. And we use that to determine how we design our pages. I think a lot of the days of gut feels and saying this looks better or this feels better is changing. And obviously that art is important, but there is an element of science that we're able to incorporate into how we think about our products. Third, we're trying to move towards being more personalized. So this is like a normal article page on Times of India, and I don't know, it's not stretching properly, but you get the idea. It's a normal article page. This is what someone sees when they go to timesofindia.com and they click on an article. But we felt like people coming from different places have different needs and different experiences. So if I've come from TOI.com, you should show me relevant related articles, other articles in this section, and our hope is that you'll click on one of those. But if you're coming from search, you are looking for something very different. So this is the same article, but if I searched voter ID and I found this article, I want the core of what you're saying. I'm not interested as much in your related stories. I'm not as interested in other things in that section. And so for us, we felt we should design the experience for the user. And so this is an example of where we've built a page that's lighter, there's less stuff around it, it loads quicker, there's a little bit more advertising because we know this user is a little more transactional and he's not going to stay for a long time. But as a theory, what we're trying to do is make our experience relevant for specific people. The other 2 ways we're thinking about personalization is around geography and around interest. So geography is a unique thing for us because almost half of our traffic comes from outside of India. And that person outside of India has different interests in what they consume than someone who's inside of India. For example, people outside of India are more interested in sports, are more interested in entertainment. Whereas people inside of India are more interested in local, city-specific news and, frankly, lifestyle content. So what we want to be able to do is make a different experience for someone who's in the US, someone who's in Dubai, and someone who's in India. And then sort of the holy grail of personalization for us, and we're getting there, it's taking time, but we're getting there, is to actually personalize what you see based on the things you care about. Our readers give us a lot of feedback about what they like, what they don't like, what they wish they had more of, what they wish they had less of. Some people say we want less lifestyle, or we want more politics, or more sports. And the reality is that all of them are right. They really should get what they want. And we have that luxury of being able to create that. And so the goal for us is to say, if you're more interested in sports content, we'll make sure that that's more prominent on our page. And so as a direction, that's sort of where we're thinking about personalization. Fourth, and I want to take ET or Economic Times right now as an example. We've become a little more brand-centric and less direct response. So this is the old version of Economic Times, which, as you can see, has a lot of small ads across the site. We changed that about a year ago and really reduced the number of ad spots and focused on either bigger ad spots or more integrated ad spots, like that executive drive that you see in the navigation. We've done, just for a little perspective here, ET is also very strong in its category. This is it compared to other business news newspaper sites. Here are some of the brand integrations we've done. This is something we did with DHL, where they really changed the experience of the page. We also did some work with Shell, where we sort of branded a spotlight section for them. And the most important event for Economic Times is always the budget. And last year, we made sure that our product was core to budget by having a lot of real-time information, whether it was news updates, audio updates, quick opinions, and it was a great experience for consumers. We're going to keep that again this year, but we're going to do 2 things to make budget more compelling for our advertisers. First, we're extending budget before budget. And we're going to do a lot of pre-budget coverage and a lot of things that help give a context around it. And for our advertisers, it means that they get a longer-term experience. And I jumped. And second, we're going to actually use the whole network. We think that the user on timesofindia.com also cares about budget, but he cares about it from a different context. And so if we can engage that advertiser across those mediums, that's what we'll do. The fifth thing we do is we really, really care about our community. And it's really not fifth, it's much higher in terms of priorities. We have a lot of opinionated readers, and they share those opinions. We get about 1 million comments a month, 7 million reactions to those comments in terms of agrees or disagrees. And in terms of impressions on Facebook, about 350 million. And so we've tried to think about this, and again, that idea of social not as a plugin, but as something we can build core into our experience. You know, we've done the Facebook fan pages and Twitter pages, and we've got all those, and they're doing very well, and I don't mean to discount that. But we've done a couple things that I think are really more interesting. So we launched a newspaper about 6 months ago called The Speaking Tree, which is a weekly newspaper around spirituality. And so when we said, what should the web product of that look like? We said, you know what? Let's not make it like a traditional newspaper website where most of it's about the articles that are there. Let's try to create it as a community centered around spirituality. And those articles from the paper will be sparks for the conversation that will happen there. And so we built SpeakingTree.com under that design. And if you notice, what it's become is now a community where people engage with spiritual masters. They can watch live video satsangs on site. And most amazingly, the content production is not just from us anymore. You're starting to see meaningful blogging and activities from our readers who are sharing their views and engaging with each other. And if we think about what's the eventual long-term vision, is that we have less of a master-follower relationship, which is prevalent, but actually saying some of those followers can actually become thought leaders and influencers for the rest of the community, and we start to blend those lines a little bit in that community orientation. We've also extended the idea of communities to timesofindia.com, where we've tried to build, and it's no intent to be a social network, but a convenient place where you can sort of see your interactions across all of our sites, as well as those interactions of your friends. The third example I want to give about community is a personal favorite for me. It's something we launched a couple of days ago called ET Speed. ET Speed, in one sentence, is a Twitter for the finance world. But because we're talking about the finance world, we've done things that are a little more unique for it here. We've built filters on the left side so that I can say, I want to know certain types of updates. We've identified prominent analysts and reporters and sort of separated them from the community in some sense. So while everybody is able to interact and engage, if I need financial opinions, some people at least put a lot of value on authority, and so we make that easy. We've built a really smart tagging engine, so it's really easy to post updates and sort of tag them to companies. You can also make a portfolio of your own or follow certain analysts or companies or industries and see updates around them. And as you care about specific companies that are popular, you really get a great news experience that integrates news, opinions, and views all in one place. And so this just launched a couple days ago, but we're already getting interesting amounts of community engagement. And I guess if there's one point I'm trying to make about it is that we try to think of social by design and not as a plug-in into our products. The last way that we try to take a different strategy around content is that we've acknowledged the fact that there are different channels for different audiences. So Times of India, Economic Times, these are big brands and they have a certain traffic base. But we are very cognizant of the fact that people have interests in specific ways of consuming content that are different from that. And so the first flagship property for us that's been around for a long time is India Times, which was originally a horizontal portal, but today at least is morphing towards saying it's going to stand for something. It's going to have a little bit more edgy content, a little bit more opinion, a more aggressive design, because we feel like this is going to be a channel that certain people engage with. Similarly, we've built channels for a lot of other verticals like women, like health, like luxury, technology, and auto, and this example, Zigwheels, happens to be the leader in its segment today, which really proves to us that we can create engagement and community orientation within these verticals as well as across a horizontal level. We've made it across platforms, obviously, with our experiences across the different devices. But again, we really believe if we're going to do something, we should do it absolutely right. And so this is something we launched very recently called Tweak, which is actually a tablet-based magazine. And when you make a magazine just for tablets, you can actually think a little bit out of the box. What you see here is you can navigate with touch, obviously, but you can go left and right as well as up and down. You can share really seamlessly within the product. There's a lot of non-linear navigation, so I don't have to flip page by page, but I can jump into sections. When we think about things like slideshows, we don't have to make all of them on the page. You can actually flip between them, as you can sort of see here. And again, the screenshot's unfortunately a little bit laggy, so I apologize. And then the last part of it, which I really like, is that we can actually make it a multimedia experience. And I'm not sure why it stopped, but one of the things we've done is we've integrated Gaana's top 5 list, so that in the application you can actually listen to music. And so, this is an experiment. There's no doubt that this is not a fully defined product, but we also think that experimentation is part of our strategy. And acknowledging and embracing mediums is part of what will get us ahead. So that's entertainment, content, commerce. Now, if I were you, the question I would be asking is why? And specifically, why should one company be doing all of these different things? And I think it's a question I ask myself a lot. But the real answer to me is what I like to think of as knowing your customer, right? Underlying all of these products, we are trying to build an intelligence that gives us a better understanding of what our consumers want and making the experience better for them. So imagine being able to know that this guy happens to listen to this music and watches that video and is interested in this type of news. And imagine that he's actually also looking at mobile phones, right? For us, it gives us a great profile to say what are other things we can recommend to him across our network. And for advertisers in the future, in a sort of anonymous way, which we'll obviously have to caution, we can actually build a more intelligent system around who you're really speaking to. The other reason Know Your Customer is exciting for us is something Pete touched upon again, which is the idea of attracting and rewarding. When we understand our customer base better, we get to reward them better. And so this is another thing that we've never really announced before, but it's a sort of internal thing that we're going to launch soon called Times Points. And Times Points is really cool to me because it's about actually understanding our consumers in different ways. The way we see our consumers, we've got 3 basic categories. You've got the regular loyalists who are there almost every day and multiple times a day. You've got the casual user who comes maybe once a week, and then the passerby who comes once a month or once every couple months. For the regular user and for the casual user, this is a way for us to try to upgrade them to make them loyalists. We can reward people for their activity, give them vanity in terms of some sort of validation for their efforts and for their engagement on our platforms. Soon, you'll see Times Points integrated across these properties of ours, which are, and a couple of other digital properties, so that we can actually reward you for being a loyal Times Internet user rather than just a TOI user per se. But what really excites me about this program more than anything is if we can actually think about extending a loyalty program off of the Internet as well. Imagine if I can actually say the people who engage with Radio Mirchi the most, the large radio network that we run, or who vote in a Times Now poll, can actually get understood and get rewarded for that activity. Now, this is a concept, and we're not there yet, but to me, it's a direction we're going, where as we understand our consumers better, we can both give them tailored experiences, as well as really give them rewards for being great and loyal users of ours. Right? And we can give them, gifts, and eventually we can think about giving some exclusive access to some event or whatever. And again, it's sort of early stages, but we're figuring it all out. So entertainment, commerce, content, understanding our users across it all. That's our picture, right? Well, to be very honest, it is a small piece in our big, big puzzle that is the internet. There are so many amazing things happening, so many innovations that are happening, and this is just a small piece where we've said we're going to try to stick our neck in. For the rest of it, we've got a 3-part strategy. We try to incubate, invest, how we participate with the rest of the community. For us, it's about being a partner, perhaps not on an operational level. And so we actually look at things even at the early stage, but strategic and potentially even acquisitions. From the incubate standpoint, we've launched something a few months ago called T-Labs, which is really cool. It's an incubator modeled after those in the West. But for us, it's about lending our support to the amazing community of entrepreneurs and young enthusiasts. We give a little bit of money, but we also give office space and resources and help. And some of the companies really don't have a defined vision yet, but for us, it's about engaging with awesome talent and helping that awesome talent, get somewhere with it. We've invested in a couple of companies, and we'll probably do a few more investments soon. Affle, which is a mobile messaging company. Instamedia, which is about intelligent, cost-effective content. These are things that make us better, right? We don't have to run these businesses, but we try to milk the juice of these guys by learning from them and having them be participants with us. And then last, and I know it sounds like an HR speech, but for me it's a really meaningful thing that we really try to create a culture of innovation. And Times of India and India Times has had a long heritage in a lot of different ways. But today, more than ever, we're doing so many things that we have to believe in the people that are doing these things to lead it. I mean, I love this term, entrepreneurs. But that's really the kind of profile of people we're building, bringing on, and really trying to get to support our ecosystem. Because all of these products that you've seen today are done by a huge team. And that team has to take ownership and feel empowered to make those things successes. So it's really exciting. I mean, these are a little bit of a highlight on what we're thinking about. There's a lot more stuff that's happening and lots of other questions that should be asked. But, I think today more than ever, an advertiser has a really hard time because there's so many different things to engage with and so many different platforms and stratified audiences. But if you can start to think a little more creatively and a little more out of the box about being social, not as a plugin but by design, and trying to engage with properties that really help you expand your experience for more than just spots. I think that makes campaigns a success, and for us, when we build products, I think that's what hopefully takes us to another level. So these are photo credits for all the photos that we used, and thank you. Thank you all for your time.